It's going to record our screens, so myself and Rebecca, and then her PowerPoint as she goes through. So we don't have any video for anybody else. It's just the two of us. So you don't need to be concerned about having your video on or anything. It'll just be recording the two of us. All right, so I wanted to welcome everyone to Intro to PowerPoint Part 2. If you didn't attend Part 1, that's okay. You can get kind of caught up here too. You can also watch the recording of Part 1 on our YouTube channel. And we did send that out to everyone, I believe, was it yesterday?
Yes.
It went out to everyone for Part 1. So welcome to today's continuation of PowerPoint. I want to go ahead and introduce myself. I am Susan Winkler. I am our technology librarian here at the Champaign Public Library. And today I have with me Rebecca, who is going to be our instructor. But I'll introduce Rebecca in just a moment. I do want to give you a little bit of information in case this is your first time in Zoom, or if you need a little refresher about Zoom. Down in the bottom corner, in the bottom left corner, you should find your speaker, your mute. And if you would like to ask a question out loud, you can raise your hand and then we will unmute you so that you can say your question out loud. To do that, there are 3 buttons that you'll see in the middle, 3 icons. One is the chat button, which is a comment bubble. For most of the questions, if you want to type them out, you can type them into the chat, and then I will relay them to Rebecca. If you need her to show something again, you can put that in the chat, and we'll have her redo a demo of something. There's also the raise hand button. And the raise hand button would be if you would like to speak that question out loud, and we can go ahead and unmute you and then let you speak your question out loud. And then the third button is a live transcription button. It should be a little square with the word CC or the letter CC on it. That is if you would like to have live transcription with subtitles for what we're saying. If you would like that, you can go ahead and click on that and then say enable live transcription. If it's distracting and you don't want it, you can say hide transcriptions or hide subtitles, and that'll take that away. Okay, all right, a little bit of information about the library. We are open. If we have any other service updates, we do usually put that on our website, which is champaign.org. We also have our book a librarian appointment still. You can reach out to us there through the website. And we do have live chat whenever the library is open. And you can always reach out to us via email at librarian@champaign.org. All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Rebecca. Rebecca is a library associate here at the Champaign Public Library. You've probably seen her at the Ask Here desk on the 1st or 2nd floor. And she also assists with webinars, hosting duties, and also teaching. And so she's going to be our instructor today for PowerPoint 2. How you doing, Rebecca?
I am doing well. How are you, Susan?
I'm good. I'm enjoying that it's such nice weather today.
It's so nice.
It is very nice. And I'm happy that we have folks here attending PowerPoint 2 today.
Yes, welcome everybody. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So last week, of course, we did PowerPoint Part 1, which was kind of just like a general introduction to a lot of stuff on PowerPoint, including the ribbon and inserting. We did a lot of different stuff. But let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we will jump right into that PowerPoint presentation that I made for us. Okay, we're going to go to slideshow. So I'm hoping you can see my screen there.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk about how to get into PowerPoint 2016, so how to open it and how to get started. We're going to talk about the different slide views, so how are different ways that you can see what your PowerPoint looks like through the PowerPoint application. We're going to talk about the insert tool. So we touched on it very briefly last time, but we're going to talk about a few other tools when it comes to inserting things into your PowerPoint presentation. And we're also going to go over something important, which is transitions and animations. So that would be stuff that you can animate within your slide, and then transitions would be how it goes from one slide to the next. So usually there's some sort of transition animation associated with that. Now you don't have to do that, but a lot of people do, and it's really fun to play around with. So we'll go over that as well. Okay, so let's talk about how to get into PowerPoint 2016. So the screenshot that I have up here is for Windows 10 computer, And if yours is a different Windows computer or even a Mac computer, yours might be a little bit different than what ours looks like. But for us on a Windows 10 computer, there's a couple different ways to get into PowerPoint. So we can do a search from that taskbar down at the bottom of our screen, and we can type in PowerPoint, and then we can pick the app from the results, or we can use the start button, which is down at the bottom left. Actually, I don't know if it's actually called the start button. I think it's just the Windows button. That is the very bottom left corner that kind of looks like the Windows logo. If you click on that, that will open up a menu where you can see a list of all the apps that you have on your computer. And then you can scroll through that list. It's usually alphabetical, and you can find PowerPoint from there and just click it to open it. Now, if you're on a Mac computer, you might have to check in your applications folder, or you can do a search on your computer, or you can use the Launchpad app, which is how you also search for some applications you have on your computer. And if you have more questions about Macs and PowerPoint, we can get to that at the end as well. But mostly we're focused on the Windows 10 PowerPoint 2016. Okay, so once we open up PowerPoint, it's going to give us an option about what we want to do. Do we want to select a blank presentation, or do we want to pick something that's themed or designed? So for instance, you'll see up on our screen right now, we have the option to pick a blank presentation, but there's also suggested searches that you can pick from, like if you wanted to make more of a business style presentation or a nature presentation. There's really so much you can do with how your design is. And I recommend, if you're not sure, just to kind of browse through and see what looks good to you, and you can always change it later. It's not set in stone, which is cool about PowerPoint. But for us, we're just going to do a blank presentation. So I'll go ahead and jump into my PowerPoint application, and then we'll open it up and get into our blank presentation. But if anybody has any questions, I can take those questions right now as well before I jump in.
No questions so far.
Okay, so let me stop my share, and then I will jump into a brand new PowerPoint. Let me open up a new window here. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see that page where I just opened PowerPoint and you can see all the different styles I can choose from. Do you see that, Susan?
Sorry, yes.
Okay, cool. So I'll go ahead and pick blank presentation. Now, again, you can see all the other different types. I don't know why my mouse is not showing up, but you can see all the different designs I can pick from. I can also go into suggested searches, or I can search for something. Say I was searching for a business PowerPoint, then it would pull up other ones I could search for. But let me go back and I will choose blank presentation. Let me stop my share real quick. I don't know why it's not showing my mouse. Let me close something here.
Do you have both screens?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Let me just try and share again and see what happens. Okay. Can you see that and see my mouse?
Yes, yeah, I can see it. It's kind of popping up and down, up and over. So if you drag just a little more slowly, we might be able to, yeah, we can see it.
Maybe I should turn my video off. Would that be easier?
You could, I mean, I can see it.
Does my mouse look white or black?
It is white.
Okay, let me change it to black. That way it will be easier to see.
Okay.
Sorry for the technical problems here. Okay, let me change it to black. Make it a little bigger. Hopefully you can see it a little bigger. Okay, share screen, share. Okay, is that better? I hope you can see a black cursor.
We can, yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our PowerPoint. So last week we talked about the ribbon, which is up here at the top where we have all of our tabs and our icons where we can change things like we can add slides, we can change our text. We can change our design. So right now I'm going to go to our design tab and I'm going to pick a design for our PowerPoint that we're going to create for our example today. So I've got my design tab and I clicked on my theme that I want to go with. And then I'm going to type right here, Champaign Public Library. And then I'm going to click on my subtitle, a tour. So we're going to just talk about some of the things offered at the library and then use that as a way to go over some of the tools we're going to talk about today. So up at the top, you'll notice we talked about this last time, but there is an option to change your aspect ratio. If you're on your design tab and you click on slide size, you can toggle between standard and widescreen aspect ratio. So your widescreen aspect ratio is going to be optimized for a lot of projection systems, and a lot of desktop monitors will be widescreen. So it helps sometimes to get that wider view, and you can fit more on a widescreen slide too. And standard, if I switch to standard, that's more of like a 4:3 size. So that's more optimized if you have a more rectangular screen, or a tablet as well will have that more of a rectangle size. But I'm going to switch back to widescreen because I have a widescreen. And then you'll notice also, if we click on the View tab, that I can switch between different views up here in the top left corner where it says Presentation Views. So right now I'm on Normal View, and Normal View is going to show me my slide as the big slide here in the center. And then off to the left side, I'm going to be able to see my navigation pane. So any other slides I would have in my presentation, I could go through here on the left side. Let me add another slide. I'm going to right click and click Duplicate Slide. Oh, actually, I'm going to do New Slide because I want it to be a new slide. I'm going to go to my Home tab and change my layout because I want to write something in here. Okay, so let me get my other thing pulled up here. I'm going to create a events and programs slide because that's something that's super important in our library. We do a lot of events. And then I'm just going to write in some of the programs we have. Start and Grow Your Business is one that's pretty popular. That's with our business librarian. We used to have In Concert and CPL before the pandemic happened. So I'll fill that in because that's a pretty popular one as well. And Babies Love Books. Luckily, that one is a virtual program. And then I'll put Table Talk Book Club, Talk. That's the book club that is at our Douglas branch, and I believe that one is virtual as well. And then we'll put Getting Started with Tech Workshops. That's what we're at right now. So I just clicked in that box where it says click to add text, and I was able to just make those bullet points. But you can always change that too if you want the bullet points to be numbers, or if you want to change the style. You can do that in your Home tab under the paragraph group. So I also want to do a picture for this slide. So I want to insert something. I'm going to go ahead and click on pictures from my little other box here where it says click to add text. I have some icons here which will let me insert other things than just text. So I'm going to click on pictures. And then actually I want to do an online picture because I don't have that picture in my computer. So I'm going to click insert online pictures. And then I want to have like a library logo for this slide. And online pictures will actually let you search for pictures online that you can insert into your PowerPoint without having them saved onto your computer. So I'm going to type in library and see what comes up. Okay, perfect. So I want this blue one right here, and I'm going to click insert. Okay, so now I've got my picture inserted. I'm going to use those handles to adjust it a little bit and center it where I want it. And I'm just clicking and dragging to move that like we talked about in the first PowerPoint part 1. Okay, so I've got my 2 slides so you can see my normal view. If I go to my View tab, I'm in normal view, so I have my slide that I have selected and my navigation pane. But there's also a couple of other views as well that I wanted to touch on. There's something called Outline View, which is helpful. Outline View kind of gives you just the text that's on your slide. So it'll have like the title of my slide. So slide 1, it says Champaign Public Library, a tour. And then slide 2 says events and programs. And then it lists those bullet points as text instead of with normal view, it just shows the picture. So that's helpful if you wanted to make quick changes. Say you wanted to correct something that was spelled wrong, but you didn't want to have to scroll all the way through your slideshow. You can do that right from here. So if I wanted to change out in concert, because maybe we don't have that anymore, let's go ahead and delete that out of there. So if I delete it from my outline view, it will be reflected in that regular slide view as well. So keep that in mind. And then there's also something called slide sorter view. So if I click that, that will bring all my slides and have them as thumbnails on a bigger view. So if I had like 14 slides here, I could kind of get a bird's eye view of what all of those look like. And then I could go in and switch them around if I wanted to. I could duplicate a slide, I can add a slide, delete slides. It's helpful for moving stuff around and kind of seeing the layout of what everything is. And you can also group them into sections as well. You can apply transitions from here and you can edit the timing. We're going to talk a little more about that in a little bit, but this is a really helpful screen for doing that kind of stuff and getting sort of a more stepped back view. There's also a way to look at the notes that you have on your slides. So with PowerPoint, there is a way to add notes, and notes are kind of just like, some people add notes if they want to talk about extra stuff, but they don't want it to appear on their slide. Sometimes I'll do that with our webinars, and I'll have my PowerPoint open on the side, and then I'll look at my notes while I'm looking at the slide as well. And that way I'm not cluttering my slide too much. Now you might use it for a different reason. Some people will have the notes available. Maybe they have a class that they're teaching and they have a presentation and they want people to be able to put notes in there, or they have their own notes. So there's a lot of different ways you can put notes in your slide. I think it's kind of useful. If we go back to our normal view and I go down at the very bottom, there's a way to toggle the notes on and off as well. Down at the very bottom right side, there's a little thing that says notes. If I click on that, that should, let me adjust it a little bit. There we go. Then I can add notes to my slide. So again, I would just click notes and it would pull up, and I can adjust the size of that as well if I wanted to. I'm just clicking and dragging there.
Can you show, can you show adjusting the size of the notes?
Yes.
Field.
So let me write
Thank you.
a little bit in here. These are my notes. They won't appear on my slide view. Okay. So you see my little notes window down there, but if I hover my mouse over, there's kind of a faint line between my slide and my notes window. If I hover my cursor over there, you should see it change to an arrow that has 2 heads, so a head pointing up and down. If I click and drag with my left mouse button, I should be able to drag that notes window as being bigger or smaller, and you can kind of play around with that by doing that. And I can hide my notes again if I just hit the notes button, then they go away. Or I can toggle them back on. Okay, cool. So there's also, let's go into reading view. And reading view is kind of a preview of what your presentation is going to look like without actually jumping into presentation view. So reading view is kind of useful if you want to get a preview, and you can click your buttons on your keyboard to navigate. And this is helpful because it sometimes with presentation mode, it will take your whole screen. It will make your full presentation the full screen. But with this, I still have tools down here at the bottom right corner. It's kind of small, but I hope you can see that, where I can toggle between my slides. And there's also a menu I can go into, maybe copy my slide, I can end my show, I can go to edit them or print preview. So that's kind of useful. I don't use it too much, but some people like the reading mode. And then let me get out of that mode here. Let me switch back. So at the bottom right corner where all those tools are, there's a button that says normal. So that will get you back to your normal view. So let me click that. And now you'll see up at the top in my view tab, I'm kind of highlighted on this normal view at the top left corner. And anytime you click a view, it will highlight what you're on currently. And you'll notice there are a couple of other views as well down in the bottom right corner. I have a little tool that says slide sorter, so that would jump me into my slide sorter view. I have a reading view, and then of course I can click slideshow, which would jump me into my presentation mode. There is also a presenter view, which is not on your view tab, it's on your slideshow tab. So let me click slideshow tab, and then you'll see it in the monitors group, kind of in the center of my screen here. I have it checked on. I'm going to uncheck that, but let me show you. Let me stop my share. I can't show it on this Zoom because Zoom doesn't like the format of presenter view, but let me see if I can show you the screenshot that I took of presenter view. Let's get through this slideshow. There we go. Can you see that where it says presenter view?
Yes.
Okay. So presenter view is really useful when you're doing a presentation in that you can see your notes that you have on a slide. You can see a timer that's telling you how far into your time you are, and you can see upcoming slides. So you'll see that screenshot I have. This slide here that you can see what can you check out, that's the current slide that I have presenting. But at the right side, you should see slides that are upcoming. So it's kind of useful in that it gives you a preview of what you're going to talk about coming up. And it also gives you that timer so you can kind of track where you are. I know sometimes with classes or with like a webinar, you want to be sure that you're staying on track with your time. So that's really helpful if you're in presenter mode because it's got that time. And the audience can only see that view that you have of the current slide. So they won't see all your notes, they won't see your time, they won't see your preview, but you'll see all that. So it's kind of a tool that you can use to help yourself. I really like presenter mode. We don't use it that often, but it's really useful if you're, tracking how you're doing and making sure you're on point.
It also kind of takes the place of, having like 3x5 note cards in front of you when you're doing a presentation and having to flip through those because you can put your notes there electronically instead.
Yes. And there's some tools down at the bottom that kind of give you, like you can jump to different slides from there without getting out of the presentation. So I recommend, I can't show it now, unfortunately, but I recommend playing around with presenter mode and seeing how you like it. I guess it's presenter view, not presenter mode. And another really useful tool in your view tab, so let me get out of the presentation and get back to our PowerPoint. If we click on the view tab, oh, come on, there we go. In the show group, you'll see there's a couple of different tools you can use to help you create your PowerPoint. So there's an option to add ruler. So if you wanted to add those ruler bars at the top and at the side of your presentation, you can also add grid lines. So that'll give you like those square grid lines where you can help orient some of the stuff on your page. Maybe you wanted to plan out where certain pictures are, you can use those grid lines to help.
Becca, will you go ahead and zoom in a little bit?
Yeah,
The grid lines are a little faint since they're kind of just the white dots.
let
So
me
you
see if I
zoom
can
in with
change
your
my
slide bar.
design.
I think that's
Is that helpful?
that's definitely helpful. Yes, so people can see them.
It's kind of hard to see, but they're like faint little lines that will help you guide like your text. So maybe you wanted to make sure your text was in a certain quadrant or it was lined up a certain way. You can use those guidelines to help. You can also use, yeah, no problem. Let me switch back. You can also use something called guides. Let me uncheck the grid lines. And guides will help you with your centering. So it will have center guides. If you can see that, I moved my text. Let me zoom in a little bit. No, zoom in, not out. There we go. It's not really changing that much, but it is kind of giving you that center guideline for the vertical and for the horizontal part of your slide. So that's really helpful if you had, pictures that you wanted to make sure were right in the middle, or you wanted something to line up correctly. So those are things that you can click on or off within the View tab. Any questions so far about the different views or about the grid lines or anything like that?
No questions so far. And
Okay.
again, remember, you can also raise your hand if you have a question, and then I can allow you to speak your question out loud if you have one.
Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and make another slide. Oh, it's doing that weird thing with my mouse again. Let me stop my share and start it again.
Do you want to go ahead and take off the video?
Yeah, let me try to take the video off and see if that helps. Okay, I can see my mouse now. I hope you can see my screen.
We can.
Okay, so let me insert another slide. I'm going to do new slide, and I want this layout. And now we're going to do things to do at the library. And then we're going to write some things. Does anybody have any suggestions about what things to do at the library are? And you can put that in chat as well. So the first thing I'm going to just put something. Attend a tech workshop.
We've got check out books.
Yes, check out books.
I'll say you could also check out a hotspot or a Chromebook. So you can check out devices.
Yeah, devices. And then I'm going to put hotspot Chromebook. Okay.
And actually, we have iPads now too, so you could add iPads there.
Let me add iPads.
You had to ask the tech librarian to help, right?
Yes. I'll also put that you can come in and use a computer. I'll also put one last thing. We can still do curbside pickup. So maybe you don't want to come inside, but you want your holds, grab them from curbside pickup. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do something with the insert tool. So we're going to go to insert. Can you see my mouse? It's disappeared again. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, weird.
Well, okay, I can see what you're hovering over. But
yeah, I don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
Let me see if I can move my, okay, I think it may be because I was up at the top near where my share tools were. I don't know, but now I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go to our insert tab and we're going to insert a hyperlink. So a hyperlink is, I kind of use it when I want to link to something, like say if I wanted to link to where we can sign up for a tech workshop. And we wanted to create it so that if someone were to click that link, it would take them to that website. So often you'll see hyperlinks on websites. For example, our website has probably hundreds of hyperlinks. That's anytime you see a link that's either a different color or underlined on a website. And then once you click it, it takes you to a different page. So let's add a hyperlink into our presentation. So I'm going to do it for this attend a tech workshop. And we're going to add something so that it takes us to the tech workshop page. So how do we do that? We're going to go to insert and we're going to do hyperlink. So first, before we do that though, we want to say, okay, what is the text that we want to add the link to? We're going to go ahead and highlight that text and then click hyperlink. And now you'll see another window pop up. And here we can add in the address down here where it says address. I know it's a little small, but it says address. That's the address of the website we want to link to. So what you'll want to do is type in the address, or you can copy and paste it from a website. So I'm going to get what let's minimize this for a second, and I will grab from our website. I'm going to go to our website and get the tech workshops link.
Or should we be seeing you grabbing this?
Yeah, I was just pulling
Okay.
up the page. Let me
Okay.
do that real quick.
You might want to pause the share and share the other screen instead.
Let's stop share screen. Okay, so you should be seeing the tech workshops page on our website.
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay. So with any website, they're going to have an address up in the address bar up here at the top. So for us, it's champaign.org/adults/tech-workshops. So I can just copy and paste that right into that little hyperlinks window. So I'm highlighting the text. I'm going to right click and do copy. So now I've got that copied. And let me go back to my PowerPoint. Let me stop my share. I know it's a lot of jumping around, but this is kind of what you do when you do hyperlinks. And then now I've got my text highlighted. I'm going to click hyperlink. And then I'm going to paste in that web address into the address field. So now it says https champaign.org/adults/tech-workshops. And then once I'm ready, I'm going to hit OK. And that will add that link to that text. So you'll see how my attend a tech workshop is underlined and it has a different color. That means that has that hyperlink on it. So I can click on that and it should take me out to the website. Okay, I think I have to right click on it. Or if I'm in presentation
it's
mode.
when you're in, yeah, it's when you're in the presentation mode that it'll take you
Let's
there.
do view and let's do my slideshow. Okay, cool. So you'll see as I'm hovering over the link, it's got that link. Hopefully you're seeing that. I don't know if
the
it's
little
translating.
hand.
It's got the link right next to it. And if I click it, it's probably not going to show because I'm still in my PowerPoint, but it opened up the new window in my internet browser that brought me to the page that I had pasted into there.
And the change in color here also signifies that you've clicked on it.
Yes. So that's kind of useful if you're doing a presentation and you wanted to show something from a website and you were like, hey, we have this going on coming up, and you could click that and then jump out to that website during your presentation. Now you don't have to do that. You can do that afterwards or beforehand, whatever works for you.
So Rebecca, we do have a raised hand.
Oh, sure.
So if you're okay for a moment, I'm going to go ahead and allow them to ask their question. Okay, so you should be able to, hopefully.
I had a question earlier on what you're saying before, but now I can't remember. I'll remember later.
That's okay, no problem.
Okay. And the current one was something about a Zoom connection?
I was just wondering how that's where you put like the Zoom connection and anything like that, where to be, like if, you know, when you're doing the slide for all the events and it's going to be on a Zoom, so you would put it there or something like that?
You could. The cool thing with tech workshops I'm sorry, not tech workshops. I'm looking at the word, that's why I said it. With hyperlinks is that you kind of hide the address. So if it's a long address and it's kind of ugly looking, to put it underneath a hyperlink will kind of disguise it as just the words. It makes it look prettier. And I know with our slides that we send out, there are links on those. We just copy and paste the link into there, but there is a way to add that as a hyperlink so that it would just be the text of what the page, maybe the page title or something.
Okay.
Does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Can I ask you just one other question?
Sure.
You mentioned one can check out equipment. How do you do that? Can you do that online through just champaignpubliclibrary.com or what?
Yeah, you can request those through our catalog, or you can give us a call at the information desk and we can help request those for you.
Okay.
They are available to Champaign cardholders.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do another slide where we're going to insert a table, unless anybody has another question about hyperlinks. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a new slide, and we're just going to do the title because we're going to add in, oh, why is it doing that? Let me delete this slide and add a new slide with just the title. There we go, because we're going to add a table to this, but I want to make the title, how long can I keep it? So how long does stuff that we have circulating check out for? So I'm going to make a little table that has a chart of the timeline for everything. So we're going to go to our Insert tab. And tables are really cool because they let you kind of display more information in a really pretty way. So let's go to Insert, and up at the top left corner, we have Table. So I can either click on the table or I can click on the little arrow, and that will pull up this menu here. And this menu is going to let me pick how many cells are inside of that table. Or I can click Insert Table.
Rebecca, will you do that a little bit more slowly so that the preview will pop up on the
sure, yeah,
page
let me do that. So before you insert your table, it's a good idea to think about how many cells you might need for it, including the title of the cells. So for example, if we're talking about a table with items, so we want to have a title that says item and then a title that says how long I can keep it. So we want maybe one more row than we might need because we want that title in there. So let me see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that I want in my table plus the title. So that's 7 rows. So you see as I kind of hover over each of the squares, it's creating, I hope you're seeing that.
We are now, yes. Now it's,
okay,
it's
cool.
caught up now, yeah.
So it's creating my rows currently. It says 1 by 7 up at the top there. And then as I go to the right, I'm going to create columns. So I only need 2 columns since I have just items and time. But if I wanted more, I could go to the right and create. So for example, this one's a 6 column, 7 row. But I'm just going to do 2 by 7. And once I'm ready to insert that, I'm just going to click down. And now I've got my table. And then I can move it. And again, I'm just hovering my mouse on the boundary box around it and dragging it to where I want it to be and letting go. And up at the top, it's going to give me a little option here to change my design. So I can change my design of like what color the table is or the shading in the table and the text in the table. So I'm going to change my table to a blue table because I like blue. And then I can go ahead and just type in the table. So I'm going to type in item, item, and then time. And then I can click in and write new books. And I can use my arrow on my keyboard to jump between the cells, or I can hit tab. If I hit enter, that's just going to give me lines within the cell. It won't get onto the next cell. So often I'll use the directional arrows on my keyboard. And we want books, and then Chromebooks, and then hotspots, and then entertainment DVDs. So you're learning not only about PowerPoint, but about library stuff too. Okay, and then I have my different times that I can enter. 2 weeks for new books. Regular books are 4 weeks. Regular books are 4 weeks. And Chromebooks are 2 weeks. Hotspot is the same. Entertainment DVDs is 1 week. And then informational DVDs are 2 weeks. Informational. And again, I can change that design of that table anytime I want. So if I go back up to my design tab, while I have my table selected, I can go through this little window and then change it if I want to. So maybe I want it to be like that. That looks nice. So again, keep in mind to think about how many cells you might want within your table, including if you want any titles in there. And I can also do that if I go back to the table tab or the insert tab and click table. I can click insert table instead of drawing it. So if I only draw it, it gives me a 10 by 8 table. But if I need a bigger table, or if I don't like using that tool, I can click insert table, and then I can put in the number of columns and rows manually and hit OK. And then that would create another table. I hope that makes sense. Any questions about inserting tables?
No questions so far.
Okay. So let's also talk about something I use very often, which is shapes. So let's insert some shapes. So we're going to go to our Insert tab, and then you'll notice on the Illustrations group, there is an icon for shapes. So if I click on shapes, then it's going to pull up a larger dialog box with all of the shapes that I can pick from. And I quite often use the arrows. I'll use the box shape to highlight something. So let's use an arrow shape.
So Rebecca, before we move on to shapes, we do have a question about how to add another row to a table after you've already built it.
Sure thing. Let's see. I think if we go to, let me see if I can remember.
I think if you go into, it's either format table.
Format, shape. Let's go, let's highlight my, and then click design maybe. No, this is a good question. I don't know this myself.
If you right click on your table up at the top where your title is, I think all you have to do.
Oh, here we go. It says insert.
Yes.
Okay. So I've got my table selected. I right click it, and then there's a little toolbar that comes up, and there I can do insert. So I can insert columns or rows. I hope you can see that little pop out.
We can.
Okay, cool. I don't know why I think Zoom doesn't pick that up, but it does. So I can insert, let's do an insert row below. So I believe that's where you had your cursor. That would insert wherever you had put your cursor. So let's do a row under informational. Let's right click.
You do video games?
Insert. Yeah, let's do video games. Insert row below. Let's put video games. I believe that's only 1 week. I'd have to double check on that. But yes, we do have video games. And then I think if we do delete, we can delete rows or columns or even the whole table. I hope that helped answer your question.
Yes. We do have another question about what is the tell me more about up at the top, just above where your design is there, next to.
Oh, here?
Yes.
So this is Microsoft Office. They have these in a lot of apps. So Word will have this, PowerPoint, Excel. This is kind of a way where you can get into some of the help options. So maybe you were wanting to know how to start your presentation. So I can type in start presentation, and then it will give me search results. So I can like learn how to start my presentation from the beginning, start from this slide. It just kind of does your keyword search and then gives you the tools that you can use to make that happen. So maybe I want to learn how to print, or I want to learn how to add shapes. So it's kind of also a jump to kind of way. So I can jump right to shapes from here if I type that in, and I don't have to go to the insert and then the shapes. I can type in shapes and then jump right there. Does that make sense?
So it can work as a shortcut.
Yes, that's a good word for it, shortcut. Okay.
Thank you.
Speaking of shapes, let's go ahead and I'm going to create a new slide. And we're going to create a slide with information about our self-checkout. And we're going to insert some shapes. Self-checkout, I think is one word. I'm not sure. But we're going to go ahead and insert our self-checkout picture.
Do you want to walk through how to do pictures again real quick?
Oh, sure. So I have a picture of a self-checkout machine that we have here at the library that I have saved onto the computer. And I want to insert that into the self-checkout slide. So I'm going to go to my insert tab and hit pictures since I know I have it on my computer. And then what it's doing is it's pulling up my File Explorer window where then I can go and pick out the location where it's at and choose my picture. So I know it's on my desktop, and then it's this picture right here, picture 2. And then I click insert. And now I've got my picture and I can move that into the center there. Okay, so I want to add some shapes to kind of walk you through how to use your self-checkout. So I'm going to go back to my insert tab. And we're going to go to shapes because I want to add some arrows that kind of give you an indication of how to use it and what you're looking at. So I'm going to do shapes and I'm going to choose an arrow. So if I hover over the shapes, it will also let me know what it is. It's hard to see with my mouse so big, but it should give you a little description of the shape. And I'm going to click my arrow and you'll notice that once I've clicked my shape, my cursor will change its shape as well. So I've got a cursor that looks like a plus sign. So right now, if I click and drag, now it's going to draw my shape right on that slide wherever I'm clicking and dragging. And then once I let go, that shape is now inserted into my PowerPoint presentation slide. And then I can go and move my shape around. It's kind of similar to pictures. I can rotate it if I want to. I can make it bigger. I can squeeze it to a different size. So I recommend kind of playing around with that. It's really fun to play with shapes, and I can change the way the arrow is pointing by using that little, it's kind of a circular arrow there up at the top of my shape. So I'm going to put that right there and make my arrow a little longer. So I've got my shape. I'm going to insert another one just so we can practice that again. I'm going to do the arrow pointing to the left this time. So again, I've clicked my shape and I've got my cursor that changes to a plus sign. And then I can just click and drag and then let go. And I'm clicking with my left mouse button. And then I've got my little arrow. And I can also change my shape color too. So it will default to a specific color based on the design of your slide. But then I can go in up here where it says format. As long as I've got my shape selected, it will give me formatting options up at the top. You'll see a tab that opens up. It says format. And then I can go in and change my color if I wanted to have maybe like a yellow arrow. Let's see. I like this color. That looks good. Maybe orange. That looks nice. Or I can change them manually if I wanted to choose a different color for the outline or for the fill. I could go and play around with those as well. So I recommend playing around with the formatting tools. They're a lot of fun to play with. So I've got my arrow the way I want it to look. So I'm also going to insert some text too, unless there was a question.
Rebecca, you could also mention that on the right-hand side there is more things. Also, when you select your shape, more things that come up. So if you select your arrow again, you'll see you can format your shape over here. Yep, on the right-hand side as well.
Yes.
Which is more options.
So I have options with my fill options, my transparency option. So transparency would mean that it looks like see-through. Or again, I can change my color. I can mess around with the lines. I just recommend kind of creating a PowerPoint and just messing around. Just have a test PowerPoint that you want to use and then just insert stuff, play around with shapes, play around with your format. I have learned a lot of stuff by just clicking around. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I've got my shapes there. Let me go ahead and insert some text. So I'm going to my Insert tab, and I'm inserting a text box. And then I'm just going to click down where I want my text box to go. And then I'm going to type in that text box. So let me find what I'm typing here. Okay, we're going to do enter pin number here. And then I'm going to move my text box where my arrow is. I'm going to insert another one just so this slide makes more sense. I'm going to insert it where my other arrow is. Place books here. And I'm going to move that. Again, I'm just clicking and dragging those boundary boxes that show up around my text box. And if you want a more kind of detailed movement, you see as I move this text box with my mouse, it kind of jumps quickly to one location. It doesn't give me a lot of small movement, but I can also use my directional arrows on my keyboard, and that will give me smaller movements that I can use. So maybe I want to be more detailed about where that is. I usually use my directional arrows for that. Okay, so I've got my text. I'm good for there. Any questions about that so far?
No questions so far.
Okay. I also want to talk about how to insert a video. So let me add another slide.
Actually, we do have a question.
Oh, sure. No problem.
Okay, we've got a raised hand. So
The self-checkout, you showed you already had a picture, or that whole picture you're showing?
Yes, that's this picture here on the slide.
Right. So, I mean, like if I want to check out a book, how would I? My picture. I mean, I don't have that picture. How do I do that? I don't fully understand the checkout thing.
Right, so I'm just using this as an example. So if you were inserting a picture, it could be whatever picture you wanted. I'm just using the self-checkout at the library as my example. And you can take any picture that you take on your phone or your tablet or saved onto your computer, or even one from the internet. When we go back to that insert tab and we click on pictures, I can either insert it right from my computer. So I had that picture saved. So I had it as picture 2, or I can go out to the internet and search for a picture. So maybe I was searching for a library picture.
Does that mean I have to create a picture, or have to create this where I can, before I check out anything? I'm not following.
So Rebecca's just using this as an example of what she's going to demonstrate is using transitions and animations to like animate the process that someone would do when they come to the library and use the self-checkout. So when you would come to the library to use the self-checkout, you first would place, you'd place the books on the mat, and then you'd put in your card number. So it's a sequence of steps. So she's just using the PowerPoint to that as an example of what you can do with it. So if you were creating a PowerPoint at home instead, and you wanted to show someone a process that they might do.
I see. Okay.
You could do the same thing.
How to, okay, that's fine. I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into that let's do a new slide. And we're going to practice inserting a video. So maybe you wanted to have a little video clip that you showed during your presentation. So for us, I want to insert a story time video clip. We have story times here at the library, and a lot of times they're virtual nowadays, but we do have some that are just, you can watch anytime and they are not part of a program. So let me go ahead and we're going to insert one. So let me write story time, because that's what our title is for our slide. And then to insert a video, what we want to do is we want to click insert, and then we want to go to the very right where it says insert video. And there's a couple of different options. So I can insert an online video. So that would be a video that is online, that's not saved onto my computer. Or I can insert a video that I already have saved. So kind of similar to the pictures. I don't need to have one saved. I can always get one online. So let's click online video. So with online video, what you can do is you can search YouTube, or you can place a video embed code into your video. So that's what we're going to do. It's similar to the hyperlink in that we need to go and grab that code and paste it into this little window here. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to exit out of this window real quick. I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to share a website page from our website. So we're going to navigate to our YouTube page just so I can grab the embed code. So let me do that real quick. We're going to go into videos, and then I'm going to find a video that I want to insert into our PowerPoint presentation. So we have a few down here. Here we go. So this is the video that I'll insert right here. I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and that will open it. And then you'll notice at the bottom of the video, there's some tools here, and one of them says share. I hope you're seeing that.
Yes.
Okay, cool. You probably would have said something if you would. So I'm going to click share, and then you'll see the options. The first one here says embed. I'm going to click on that, and here is our embed code right here. This text, that is our code that we want to copy and paste into our PowerPoint. So let me copy that. I'm going to copy.
And you're using your keyboard shortcuts to copy, correct?
I'm right clicking and clicking copy, but I can also use my keyboard shortcut, which is, I believe, Control C.
Yes.
And then I'm going to minimize my website page and go back to my PowerPoint. So you should see a story time slide there.
We do.
And now I'm going to click video, online video. And now I'm going to paste my code right into that video embed code window or text box. And I'm just using Control V on my keyboard to paste that in there. And now I think I can just hit enter, or I can click this little arrow that says insert on the very right of that window. And now you'll notice it doesn't really do anything right away. And it usually takes a second or two, depending on how long the video is, for it to pop into your slide. So you should see a black box there. That's our video. And I think if I click on that, that should hopefully show the video. Let me make it a little bigger. Sometimes it looks like a black box, so don't worry about that. If you double click on it, it should pop up with the little preview of the YouTube video. And then I can click play if I wanted to. I hope you can see that video playing. If not, that's okay too. Come on. And this is Kristen, one of our children's librarians.
Yeah, we can see it moving now.
Okay, cool. So that's helpful if you wanted to show like a small video clip during your presentation. Some people do that. I know classes I've taken before will have little video clips inside of a presentation. It makes it super easy for presenters because then they don't have to jump out to a separate website to then jump back in. I know I'm jumping around a lot, so that can be a little distracting. So inserting the video is kind of helpful for that.
Now, one thing to consider, though, you do have to have your active internet connection in order for that to work, because what you've done is you've basically just taken the code. If you know you're not going to have internet, when you go to present, you're going to want to download the video and use the other option that Rebecca was talking about where you have it saved on your machine.
Yes. So then you would go to insert video and video on my PC. So that would actually just upload that video that you had saved, and that way you're not worried about the internet connection. Thanks for that, Susan. Okay, any questions so far about inserting? Otherwise, we will move on to transitions and animations.
I don't see any questions so far. Okay.
So I'm going to go back to our self-checkout slide, because that's the one I'm going to do those animations on. Now, there is a bunch of different animations you can pick from. If you go into your Animations tab up at the top. I have the option to pick from an animation, but what I need to do first is decide what am I animating. Okay, so I want to animate my arrows and my text. So I'm going to click on my arrow, and now you'll notice at the top that I have a bunch of animations to pick from. And now animations would be, it's going to animate how my arrow is looking when I get to that slide. So sometimes you'll see animations where people have shapes fly into their slide, shapes fly out of their slide, fade in, fade out. There's a bunch of different ones you can pick from. If I click on this arrow with the line above it, it's going to give me all of the animations I can pick from. So I want to pick fly in for this arrow. So if you notice that, I'll show it again, but it did fly in, as in like it swiped into my slide instead of just being stationary. There is a way to preview that. Let me do, I think if I do
left-hand side.
Yes, here we go. Yep, it's hard to see, but there's a preview option here. If I click that again, you'll see it'll start the slide over again, and you'll see that red arrow fly into the slide. And you'll see it's got a little number 1. So right now that's the first animation we have playing. Let's animate the text. So I want to highlight my text, and then I'm going to decide what animation I want. So let's see. And I think if you hover over them, do they preview? No, they don't. I'm going to do spin. So now you'll notice that my place books here text has a number 2 on it. And if I preview it, it's going to preview all of the animations. So number 1 means the arrow is going first, and number 2 means that that's going after that. So that's a good way to track, okay, what animations are going when. And I can also change that if I go to, let's see, I think if it's
The animation pane.
Where is that? Oh, here.
Yep.
So under advanced animation, and I click animation pane, then it's going to give me a breakdown of what my order for animations is. And I believe if I click and drag, I can change to place books on top of my arrow. So if I want to have the text appear before my arrow, I can just kind of click and drag, or I can choose some options at the right side. I can click some timing options. I can remove it. I can start it when I click my mouse. And you'll notice there's some little icons associated with that as well. And I recommend kind of playing around with that. It is a little complicated. You can kind of get complicated with animations. So I recommend kind of playing around and seeing what you like and what looks good. And again, keep in mind that animations do make your presentation, I mean, sometimes they make it more dynamic, but also sometimes they look a little extra. So think about that as well when you're doing your presentation. If it's a professional presentation, do I want a bunch of animations going on? Maybe not. So if they're more simple and subtle, that might be better depending on what type of presentation you have. So that's something to keep in mind too. I know we talked about that with design. So it's just another element to keep in mind when you're doing your PowerPoints. So let's also add animations to the other arrow. So I'm going to do an exit animation. So an entrance animation means it's entering the slide. An exit animation means that shape would be exiting the slide. So I'm going to do bounce. So it's going to bounce, and then we're going to do our text. Let's highlight it. And we are going to do, let's pick something. There's so many to pick from. I can never decide. Let's do wipe. Okay. So those two are exit animations, and these two are entrance animations. But there's also another one called emphasis, which kind of just keeps that text or shape there, but it emphasizes it rather than appearing or disappearing. And then motion paths are kind of advanced, but those move like your shape or your text or your picture, at a specific path. I don't play around too much with motion paths because I don't really know how to, but
I
I
think
guess I've never really used them before.
it's sort of like if you're watching one of those sing-along movies where there's the bouncing ball and you're like, follow the bouncing ball for when you should say the next word. That's kind of how you can do motion paths, where you draw, basically you draw where you want it to start and you draw where you want it to finish, and it will follow that path.
Oh, I see.
So if you wanted it to start up in the top left corner and finish in the bottom right corner, you could make your shape move like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I put one on that one. Yeah, I recommend just kind of messing around with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use them often for professional presentations or things, but you know, if I was having like a karaoke party at my house and I was using like a YouTube video, and then I was nice enough to put in the lyrics, I might point and say, okay, you know, like call out where the lyrics are so people could find them easily by using something like that.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and let's also look at the view. Let's do the slide sorter view. And that should tell me, if you notice when I'm on slide sorter view, there's a little kind of star at the bottom right corner of this slide number 6. That's telling me I have an animation or something going on with this slide. So that's kind of another clue to say, if you're looking at, like, you say you maybe have 50 slides and you're going, okay, which ones do I have animations on? It's helpful if you go to slide sorter view, it will give you a little indication with that icon. It's also helpful when you're using transitions. Let's talk about transitions. So if we're on our transitions tab, it's right next to animations and it looks kind of similar. So transition would be how one slide, when it goes to, say, from slide 1 to slide 2, there might be a transition animation there. So I know often people will put kind of kooky transitions. So let me show you what kind of a transition looks like. So I'm on transitions and I want to transition from slide 1 to slide 2. So let's pick one. Let's pick one that looks kind of obvious. Let's do peel off. Where did that go? There we go. Okay, I think if I'm on slide 2, I want it on slide 2 because I'm going from slide 1 to slide 2. Let's do peel off. And then I'm going to do fade for the first one. And you'll notice again, as I do that, when I'm on my slide sorter view, I have that little indication that I have something on that slide, whether that's a transition or an animation. It doesn't say, but it'll kind of give you an idea. So you'll also notice that when I did that transition, that it showed me a little preview. Let me do it on slide number 3. Let's do doors. So you'll notice there, it was pretty quick, but as I click on those, that kind of gives me a little preview of what that transition is going to look like. Let me see if I can make that bigger. There we go. So I'm on slide 3 and I'm transitioning from slide 2 to slide 3. And now you can see kind of a preview of what that looks like. So I like slide sorter view when I'm doing transitions because it really gives me an idea of what it's going to look like. And again, I can use that preview button top left corner to give me a preview of what that transition looks like. And let me go home and let's actually do our slideshow view so we can see it in action. So you see right away, you saw my fade transition, and then that's my peel transition. And then I think I had like a zoom in. That one didn't have one. That just kind of went abruptly because I don't have a transition there. And again, you don't have to do transitions. Some people don't do them. Sometimes we do. We do them pretty subtly though. Mm-hmm. I like the fade transition.
We do more with the animation for the agenda. If you've noticed our agenda where we start with, you know, and we go through each of the things we're going to cover.
Yes.
For that, we're doing an animation of them appearing.
Yeah, let me jump into that so people can see what, remind ourselves what that looks like. Let me get to my PowerPoint.
And I think that's pretty much the only one we generally use with our slides for tech workshops, but
yes. So let's go from current slide. So see
Oh.
how we start on, oh, we do have a
we
transition.
did have a transition on that one.
So it looks like we have a transition from the first slide to the second slide. And then you'll see as I can either click my mouse or I can hit my directional buttons on my keyboard. And you see how that text is animating into the slide. Let me show it again. So it's kind of coming up subtly. So that's an animation.
Mm-hmm.
So the animation would be on, it looks like that's a transition as well. So the transition would be transitioning from slide to slide, and the animation would be applied to a shape, a picture, text, something like that.
Any element on your slide.
Yes. Any questions about transitions or animations?
No questions so far.
Okay. I think we've actually reached the end of our PowerPoint because I have that self-checkout one there, which we didn't do the whole thing that's like this example, but I have some additional resources as well. So let me show that slide. So we have GCF Learn Free, which is super useful. It's free to use, and they have topics including PowerPoint, and it kind of gives you a general crash course on PowerPoint. So it'll show you some of the stuff we were talking about today.
And these are actually hyperlinks too. So if you see how they're underlined and they're in a different color, that's because it is a hyperlink. So if you see Rebecca's hovering over it, it turns into the little hand, which means she could immediately click that and it would take her to the website.
Yes. So I have a regular cursor if I'm just hovered over regular text, but it switches when I'm over a link. And then we have LinkedIn Learning. I recommend that pretty often to people. If you have a Champaign library card, you can take courses, including PowerPoint courses. There's Excel courses, there's Word, there's Apple computers, Windows computers, even software like Photoshop, and even like career courses, kind of, what's the word for it that I'm looking for? Professional development courses, that's it. So there's so much stuff on LinkedIn Learning. Check that out. And then Microsoft Office, there's a PowerPoint online training that you can take through the support page, Microsoft support page. Check that out too. And once we send out these slides, you'll have these links as well. So don't worry about having to write down this weird number. You'll get a link to that when we send out the slides.
I believe Gale Courses also has some stuff on PowerPoint too. That's a newer resource that we have. And we can add that in before we send out the slide.
Yes, let me write that down. Gale Courses.
I can put it in here too.
And then of course, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say they start on the 15th of the month. So if you wanted to take a more in-depth PowerPoint training class, that would start on, I believe, around May 15th.
Yes. And we kind of gave like a 2-part crash course, but there's just so much you can do. So I recommend if you are on a computer at home that has PowerPoint, we have PowerPoint here on our computers at the library. If you want to come in and just kind of play around, you can do that. You can also check out books. We have print books up in our nonfiction stacks. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of get started if you don't have it yourself. And then let me put up my contact info here. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to help answer them. I'm available to reach through email or by phone. And you can always email the librarian email as well. So librarian@champaign.org. And we always are good about directing those to whoever needs them. And then we do have upcoming workshops. So for May, so next week is already May, which is crazy. May 4th is our getting started with Apple computers, which I'm teaching, and we'll talk about how to get started using an Apple computer. It is a beginner level course, but anybody that has an Apple computer or is interested is able to attend. And of course, we have getting started with Windows computers as well. And then we broke down our digital file class into 2 classes because it's such a popular class and there's just so much to cover that we have them as 2 coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah, so that's almost like organization and storage. They kind of work together. So I recommend you take both workshops if you can, or watch both of the videos afterwards, because they really do go, it's all kind of intertwined.
Yes, it's kind of a two-part course without being a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants me to show something again with PowerPoint or help answer any other questions, I'm more than happy to stay a little bit extra. Unless you got to go, if that's okay too, I can always answer after class as well.
Let's go ahead and maybe put videos back on.
Yes, let me start my video.
And,
Start video.
and
There
we'll
we
see
go.
if we can, there you go. Okay. We can see if, and let's do gallery view. There we go. And we're available if needed. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, again, we're happy to help. You can always reach out to us through our email addresses. You can call us. Let me go ahead and unmute you here. Got a raised hand.
Hi,
Okay.
I just wondered, are some of these classes available after, like out of the class times?
Yeah, so you can always watch the videos once we've got them up online. Then they're available basically 24/7 whenever you want to watch them. The LinkedIn Learning resource and GCF Learn Free and Gale courses. For LinkedIn, if you have a Champaign card, again, that's 24/7. GCF is 24/7. For Gale courses, they do start and go. There's like a 6-week long course. So those are run in 6-week time frames. So that one would start, like May 12th. I think it actually starts May 12th. So it'd be May 12th. And then the next one would start, June 15th or whatever, and then move on for those.
And if they have questions, if one has questions, you can contact the presenter by email, right?
Yes. So with Gale courses, they have a discussion section at the end of each chapter that they teach. There's a discussion section where you can ask questions of the instructor, and they'll usually respond pretty quickly. With LinkedIn Learning, there's a chat function near the video where you can ask questions, and usually someone will respond. It may actually be another person who's attended the course that'll respond, or it might be the instructor. Yeah. GCF, I don't believe that there's anything within the specific tutorials, but you could reach out to like their customer service and contact us folks. And for us, of course, we're available via email whenever. I mean, we have set hours when we're here in the building, but we're answering emails too. So we'll get back to you hopefully within a day or two.
Okay.
Thank you. Great question.
So much. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Susan.
I have a lot of homework.
Let me also show you how to access our YouTube page, because sometimes we don't show that and not a lot of people know. So if you're on our website, champaign.org, we have it right there on the page. It says webinars on YouTube. And you can also go to champaign.org/YouTube, and it should bump you out to the page where you can follow the link to the webinars we have. So playlist by topic, or you can just jump right into the page where it says go to YouTube. Okay. And then you'll see, hopefully it'll pop up, all of our playlists that we have. So we have Tech Workshop playlists, which is all the videos that we've done. There's also business webinars, career webinars. We have Crafty Adults on there, and you can kind of scroll through those. And yeah, you can watch those anytime.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I use the YouTube page all the time. I love YouTube.
Okay.
All right. Other questions?
No.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending today, and hopefully we'll see y'all either next week for Apple computers. And again, even if you don't have an Apple computer, if you're at all curious about how they look and how they operate and how they're different from Windows computers, feel free to attend. We're always interested in helping people kind of broaden the scope of what they're learning. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see folks for Windows and file storage, and then, or file organization and then file storage in the month of May. So All right then.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming today, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.